You're listening to the Shake and Wake Radio Network, where the truth is all that matters, and the truth will make you free. ShakeandWakeRadio.com.
Changing the world one story at a time. We are your trusted news source for real facts, real stories, real perspective, and real-world news that really matters. You have tuned into 2realnews.com's Daily Headline News with your hosts, Seth Davis and Jason Boss.
Breaking out of prison, one mind at a time.
We are the 2realnews.com
broadcasting team on the Shake and Wake Radio Network.
And we are going live in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Two Real News. I am Seth Davis, joined as always by my illustrious co-host, Mr. Jason Boss. How you doing there, Jason?
I'm good, my man. How the heck are you?
Oh, all right. Today's going to be a pretty interesting day of news. I thought we'd change it up today and switch it up a little bit by starting with our quote of the day here with a good word, understanding. The quote, "Peace cannot be kept by force. It can only be achieved by understanding." Albert Einstein.
Very good quote. That's very that kind of goes with all the news that we're reporting today and kind of the times that we're living in right now. So excellent.
Thought it was quite appropriate.
Yes,
let's start out with some breaking news there, at least for our first hour of how we're going to do this. I'm just going to start running through stuff, and then once I'm done here, Jason, anything you'd like to add there, brother? Just
you bet.
Keep it going.
All righty.
Okay. Bomb train derails in North Dakota. Explosion forces town evacuation. This is out of Russia Today. A train carrying crude oil through Wells County, North Dakota, has derailed. At least 6 rail cars have caught fire, sending thick black plumes of smoke billowing into the sky. The town of Heimdall and nearby farms have been evacuated. Quote, "The Federal Railroad Administration has deployed a 10-person investigation team to the site and will be conducting a thorough investigation into the cause of the accident," Acting Federal Railroad Administrator Sarah Feinberg said in a statement. The BNSF railway oil tanker derailed around 7:30 a.m. local time, Wells County Emergency Manager Tammy Rorick said, according to Grand Forks Herald. Emergency crews from several fire departments across the region have responded, as well as hazardous materials teams from Devils Lakes and Grand Forks. Cicely Fong, Public Information Officer for the North Dakota Department of Energy Services, said. The train's engine and some of the attached cars were decoupled and moved away from the burning tankers, Fong said. The incident comes a day after the U.S. federal regulators came out with a new set of rules for trains following a series of derailments and explosions. The trains in question are often called bomb trains because of their black torpedo-shaped tanks that are filled with potentially explosive crude oil. The Two Real News take on this is a pretty obvious one. American infrastructure, as far as our rail systems, it's in shambles right now, and it's fairly pathetic. As a nation, we need to start putting more money into infrastructure and less money into policing the world, less money into maintaining a global empire, less money into military interventionism, less money into any of a number of things, less money into the drug war, all sorts of stuff that we could use alternatively to actually create something that's worth a damn here in America as far as infrastructure that can get us back on track with business.
Indeed. Yeah, I think we were just talking about this the other day. You know, the lack of railway, something like this was going to happen, and I think we actually hit it first because now we have an issue and they, we have this money come, for everything else but our own self. It seems like we're investing everywhere else but within America where it really truly needs to be. And this is, I suppose, the kind of news that we're going to be getting with the degrading rail lines and the infrastructure that we have is just wide open and vulnerable, and we're not taking care of our own stuff, and it's a shame.
Absolutely. And I mean, I've even seen people all the way from the Northeast there, in the cases of guys like Gerald Salente doing big reports on this, the amount of the system of the railways themselves and the fact that many of these railroads have been turned into nature paths and everything like that. And the same thing out where I am here in Washington is happening. There used to be quite a thriving system of rail out here that would span creeks, span entire just countryside you'd never see otherwise. And Once the logging business here dried up for the most part there, and mining business, that kind of just was like putting an old dog or old horse out to pasture there, and that it's too bad because so much of this just completely dries up jobs for the economy out here, because so much of this is based on infrastructure, and the rest of the world gets this. I mean, Japan, we've already covered it, has rail systems that are going something like 370 or 366 miles an hour for their bullet trains, which I get. It's more for moving people in that case. But the fact of the matter is their rail systems are still amazing. Their systems of roadways and everything like that, most of these first world nations are starting to surpass the United States. And I mean, if government can't even do something so simply as maintain the existing infrastructure, how do we expect them, honestly, to build anything better in the future?
We've invested in war. We've invested in absolutely everything that makes no sense, while at the same time, I mean, we were one of the first pioneers of having this kind of a structure in place that has been, if they would have maintained it, and if our ingenuity and our money had been going into developing better stuff, I mean, it wouldn't be coal trains. It wouldn't be, even electric trains. It would be something else that didn't cost anything. They just kind of given up on the stuff that did it for us, that we built America on. And it's, again, a shame.
Indeed, there's a lot of this that I think people need to start looking into on their own level, and I mean even on a local or smaller community level of the community they live in. If there's any sort of infrastructure that needs to be taken care of, basic stuff like that is infinitely more important than maintaining courthouses, than maintaining or expanding police stations or anything like this, than expanding any of a number of bureaucratic offices, all sorts of stuff there that they're all too happy to spend money on rather than anything that actually matters. But exactly. Here, speaking of that sort of a lifestyle, the World Health Organization projections warn of burgeoning obesity crisis in Europe. This is out of Medical Daily. This is a fairly short one. Europe will face an obesity crisis of vast proportions by 2030, according to a new World Health Organization projection, with many countries likely to see far more than half of adults above the healthy weight limit. The figures, which predict 89% of Irish men and 77% of Greek men will be overweight by 2030, present, quote, a worrying picture of rising obesity across Europe, researchers said, and very few countries show decreasing trends. Quote, although there is no silver bullet for tracking the epidemic, governments must do more to restrict unhealthy food marketing and make healthy food more affordable, said Dr. Laura Webber of the UK Health Forum, who worked with the World Health Organization and the European Commission to produce the new projections. She also said insufficient data from some countries with the WHO's European region, which comprises 53 nations, makes surveillance of obesity more difficult, hampering efforts to make accurate predictions. A body mass index, BMI, calculated by dividing a person's weight in kilograms by the square of their height in meters, of more than 25 is classified as overweight. A BMI of more than 30 is classified as obese. The latest predictions use data from across the region and compared the proportions of overweight people and obese people in 2010 with projected future levels. They showed that by 2030, a third of women in the UK are forecast to be obese, compared to 26% in 2010. For UK men, almost three-quarters will be overweight, and 36% are likely to be obese in 2030. They compared with 70% and 26%, respectively, in 2010. They showed that by 2030, a third of, the researchers said that were due to present their data, the European Congress on Obesity in Prague on Wednesday said other countries with projected steep rises in obesity included Greece, Spain, Sweden, Austria, and the Czech Republic. The proportion of obese Greek men that will double from 20% to 44% between 2010 and 2030, and the proportion of obese Greek women is doubling to 40%. Even in countries usually recording a lower prevalence of obesity, such as Sweden, obesity rates are predicted to rise sharply. An estimated 26% of Swedish men will be obese by 2030, compared with 14% in 2010, while for women, obesity rates will rise from 12% to 22%. And the Two Real News take on this is one that's a bit obvious there. These commissioners and the people from the World Health Organization and the United Nations would like to whine and like to browbeat everyone for being obese, while subsequently doing everything in their power to have GMO food, to have chemically laden food, to have non-nutritionally dense food, to not promote better growing practices and the use of trace mineralization and remineralization within the soil there, because it's been completely depleted. We don't see a lot of this stuff, Jason.
No, we don't. It sounds like the slow kill is happening, and it's what we're eating. It's everything in our food. It's almost impossible to lose weight. And the thing I was thinking about when you were saying this article is that they're poisoning the world. You know, it's not only U.S. Forever, it was just U.S. getting fat. Everybody's here, and now it's like, you know, even people that have never ever been obese are now obese, and that's telling me that, you know, they're killing us slowly.
Yeah. They quite literally have a class of chemicals there called obesogens that they have in all this food and everything. And it's something to think about, because what's with all these processed chemicals? Why do they have to be in there? As much as the European Union wants to act as though they're so above and beyond anything here in the United States. And while I will say their rates of obesity of what they consider ridiculously high, which I do too, is nothing compared to what we have here in the United States. And we actually lead them by still a pretty significant margin.
We were called the bubble people years ago. People from Europe and always talked about us as being the fat ones, and you know, it was. I think America had to be the first ones to actually. I think we were the test bed for a lot of what's going on in the rest of the world.
Oh yeah, and, they still have chemicals there though in European Union that are banned here, and vice versa. There's stuff that are in both the European Union and the United States that's banned even in some of what we consider third world nations like Bangladesh.
Yep. Yeah, no, aspartame. I mean, that's and red 40s and yellow 5s. That stuff doesn't appear overseas. And when I was researching the stuff out of the gate, I was trying to figure out, why does our food only have this stuff? And I was talking to people overseas, and they're like, "Yeah, that stuff's banned. That's crazy. They wouldn't even give that to
they do
lab
have
rats."
Stuff, they don't have caramel or caramel coloring like we do here. Instead, they have brown HT, which is just as bad. So thus, anybody that's trying to like, oh, my chocolate is from Europe. There, it's better than your dirty American chocolate. I'm like, oh, well, you're eating brown HT. So good luck with that one, brother.
Yeah, it's different substance. You know, it's the same name, different substance, but it does the same stuff. You know, that's what.
Agreed.
The bottom is.
Let's see here. And some good news we've got out of Natural Society. Meet the senator who just stood up to GMOs and said, no way. Gary Hooser stands up for the island of Kauai as one of the city council members and one of the few former senators who is speaking out against biotech. Specifically, this fight is against biotech giant Syngenta, a company which doesn't even spray its own chemicals in its native country of Switzerland. As Hooser puts it, one of Syngenta's main GMO chemicals, atrazine, is sprayed all over Kauai. It is even sprayed near school children and hospitals. It is not sprayed in Switzerland because it is illegal there. Syngenta is also spraying paraquat, a highly toxic weed killer which is banned in 36 countries around the world. Yet this and 4 other highly toxic chemicals that have been banned elsewhere are sprayed in Hawaii. Paraquat has long been banned in its country of origin, but continues to be sold indiscriminately in developing countries where farmers and workers often cannot read technical labels and are unable to protect themselves from the pesticide's harmful effects. Atrazine itself has been linked to the reproductive mutation of frogs, as evidenced in multiple scientists' research, and especially that of Tyrone Hayes. Tyrone Hayes proved that atrazine was a potent endocrine disruptor and castrated and feminized male amphibians. The chemical essentially turned males into females. Despite his findings, Hayes was prohibited from publishing his findings and was coerced into resigning from his position. Instead of giving up, he gave hundreds of lectures all over the world, trying to warn people of the effects of atrazine. Furthermore, the runoff of atrazine from over 80 million pounds used annually ends up in streams, rivers, and often in our drinking water, which has led 16 cities to sue Syngenta for contaminating their water supplies with the herbicide. There are numerous pesticides and herbicides being sprayed on genetically engineered test fields all over Hawaii to date. The biotech industry has seen fit to call Hawaii their own personal GMO playground while poisoning wildlife and people alike. However, the Two Real News take there is definitely good news that we're actually seeing a fight back against it. So too in Hawaii do they have the Clear Skies Initiative, which I was very happy to see, is they want to tell everybody here that, oh, there's no such thing as chemtrailing, or as they call it, geoengineering, and we don't actually do any of that. It's all just planned in the future that we might do something like that, and then Hawaii just bans it outright. Of like, oh, well, if you're doing it now, or if you consider doing it in the future, it's illegal, so get out of here.
Yep. Yeah, and how do they get away with this stuff, Seth? Well, this leads us to the next story. This is out of Natural News. A leading scientist with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, who noted Denmark's study disproved any link between vaccines and autism, as well as additional neurological disorders, is now fleeing justice. So their lead scientist is on the lam for $2 million he allegedly spent on the research. Mm-hmm. This was first reported in 2011 by Natural News, and the report came, now it's in Huffington Post, and the little side note on this is that Adams noted that Thornton is a scientist who formerly worked for the CDC, and over the last several years, he oversaw millions of dollars in grant money that was used to conduct research to prove that vaccines have no link to autism. So this is one of our own, this is our government, this is our taxpayer money funding debunked, fraudulent reports. And this goes for vaccines, this goes for every kind of report that you see from our government. When it comes out, you got to look at the source. You got to figure out, where did this come from? Because when you have guys that have a $2 million budget to lie about something, what are they going to do? They're going to sit there and they're going to claim to fame that it's safer than heck. We all inject ourselves with it. We're all dying. It's following the agenda.
Of course, they don't inject themselves with it. I mean, to help you out, quote the Huffington Post article of what they have. Quote, his study has long been criticized as fraudulent since it failed to disclose that the increase was an artifact of new mandates requiring for the first time that autism cases be reported on the National Registry. This new law and the opening of a clinic dedicated to autism treatment in Copenhagen accounted for the sudden rise in reported cases rather than, as Thorensen seemed to suggest, the removal of mercury from vaccines. Despite this obvious chicanery, CDC has long touted this study as a principal proof that mercury-laced vaccines are safe for infants and young children. And I mean, just to go with that there, Jason, they want to say that they've been removed from vaccines. Thimerosal has not been removed from vaccines. It just doesn't have to be put on the label if you use it in the cleaning process or in the whatever they want to say there. The sanitizing process, because that's one of the things they use of sterilizing the equipment and everything. So if it's found in trace amounts from that, then you don't have to label it. It doesn't matter. But if you add it, then you have to, up to a certain degree or up to a certain parts per million, then you have to put it there. And
people on the payroll, when they're talking, there's add this. What are they going to do? They're going to say, fine, let's add it, and they, it won't even be reported. They're giving requirements for stuff that people don't have to follow. So I mean, what difference does their requirements even make? The fact it's in there at all is just it's a horrible thing, And we have
like, why would you ever
6?
trust someone that would ever have allowed that in there? That's like
McDonald's
trying to be like, oh no, trust us now. We got rid of some of the stuff that we had in there. Trust us. Or Subway. Oh, we had the yoga mat chemical stuff in our bread, but now we don't have it. So trust us. Or Diet Pepsi or whatever. Oh, we don't have aspartame anymore. Trust us. Or Yoplait. Oh, we don't have aspartame in our yogurt anymore. Trust us. Why would I ever trust someone that knowingly sold me poison?
Exactly. Yeah. Where's the trust? I mean, burn me once, shame on me. Shame on you. Burn me twice, shame on me. That's the old rhetoric when you talk about this.
Yeah, well, they want to say that discrimination is necessarily a bad thing. Certain kinds of discrimination are, but being discerning or discriminating against somebody that has obviously proved themselves not worthy of trust is not bad discrimination. That's literally common sense.
Indeed. Yeah. Well, yeah. It's survival. I mean, at some point, people have to decide that they want to survive this or not. I mean, what we're doing, we're not surviving right now. We're definitely not on I think we're entering the endangered species list, honestly. So humans
so
ourselves.
Many people there have this thing of wanting to reduce population, but it's already been shown that there's going to be, just because of industrialization as it is right now, a cap on current population rates. It's going to top out over like the next 50 years there, or actually more like the next 30 years, but top out at around 9 billion, and then just naturally, this is regardless of any other influencing factor, and then go back down to about what it is now and go back down further from there because of industrialization of a lot of these so-called non-industrialized countries. And that actually makes a difference as far as birth rate and the amount of kids you're having and everything, but that's not even taking into account falling birth rates among first world nations that are going even further into the negatives, not taking into account all sorts of stuff. I mean, the amount of increase in cancer rates, increase in neurological disorders, increase in all sorts of diseases there. War, all sorts of factors added to the equation there that nobody really wants to consider.
Yeah, and all this stuff, it messes with our entire hormonal levels of stuff. It's not just a one-time injection of this, or whatever it is. And there's reasons that we're seeing all these advertisements for testosterone and for estrogen replacement. It's because they burned us out of this stuff, and so we have to replace it. When they're talking, depopularize the world, they're kind of doing that because a lot of guys now are sterile. A lot of guys don't produce testosterone anymore, and it's not because they're getting old. They're still where they should be, and
yeah.
it's
Well,
just because
Jason, just to add for you there, throughout human history, there have been guys that are completely potent there all the way until like their 80s and 90s. I mean, that's historical, man. You want to go into the guys in Saudi Arabia there that are still knocking out kids at like age 95. Let's not pretend that this is just some unheard of thing. We for some reason have normalized this. You know what I mean? Even cancer itself, of people looking at cancer, have just, that's always been like that. We just diagnose it now. Give me a break. You don't think people would have been talking about that in history? That wouldn't have been a big deal?
That's why we have to look at this all in perspective. We have to sit back and we have to take the spin off this stuff and look at not just one thing with autism or one thing with a vaccine. This isn't just a one thing kind of war that we're being put against. This is a large scale. It's in the food. It's in the water, every bit of the water. And, they finally, thank God, they finally put the fluoride levels down a little bit, but even putting fluoride in your water to begin with is ridiculous. 50 years of us being fluorinated, and even, we hear stories about the older generation kids that were used to sit there and swish, and I guess still some schools still have their kids swish with mouthwash every morning.
Well, to back you up there, Jason, I just found some stuff there that I'd seen from somebody of a strawberry shortcake mouthwash that has what is it, like extra levels of fluoride in there. That's the main ingredient. And I'm just like, oh, wow.
My kids, we're one of the few. We went to the dentist the other day and we're like, no fluoride for us. And they're like, what? And they were trying to get my kids to swish. My kids were like, what? It's like they're scared to death of fluoride.
Yeah, it's like, no, or you can get out of my face.
Yeah, exactly. I won't live to remember this, but if you drink that fluoride, it's sad. But that's the big picture, and that is what we have to take all of this into account. Why are we getting fat? Why do we have a 1 in 6 birth rate of that has autism? Those are the kind of questions, and it's if you look at the big picture, we're definitely being slowly depopularized.
Well, it's 1 in 6 for neurological disorders overall. The male rates they still say 1 in 68 right now, but that's actually getting even worse. And supposedly by 2020, I believe it is, or 2020 or 2025, it's supposedly going to be about 1 in 2 boys in the United States or children in the United States with neurological disorders, or about 1 or 2 boys.
When I was reading that, I think I read that same kind of a deal you did. Now, do you have any stats on the girls? Because I remember the girls were
girls is slightly lower. Yeah, right. In terms of cancer, girls are also actually slightly lower. But I just think it's certain stuff to do with a guy's immune system and everything like that there. Don't know. I'm sure somebody could tie it into some actual biological reasons behind it, but the fact of the matter is it does affect people from a non-European background worse, and specifically people from an African background worst of all, especially African-American boys, or just African boys.
Yeah, strange.
At about a rate of about a third worse than it does anyone else, which to me has always tied in perfectly to the eugenics angle and all that type of stuff. I mean, I don't want to get down to like the rabbit trail there or something like that, but that totally ties into it, and that's why I've always respected a lot of the activists out there, that people will be like, oh man, they're just ridiculous with black people. No, nobody's trying to get you or whatever. And the fact of the matter is, there have been people that literally, just based on your ethnicity, that they created the entire idea of race. I mean, we are one human race. People can interbreed with one another regardless of ethnicity, regardless of skin color, any of this type of stuff. If we were a different race, that wouldn't be possible. Literally, biologically, it could not happen. A lion, other than through some like genetic engineering or something like that.
Some Monsanto lab somewhere, I'm sure has something like that. No, that's crazy, and that's why the big picture is important. I mean, and going down the rabbit hole.
This ties in with the discrimination part there, or whatever, of just people focusing on really petty issues and getting bogged down into stuff like this. And here's a good example of somebody that's just the demagogue of all demagogues. This is out of Mint Press News. Nebraska woman files federal case against all homosexuals. In a 7-page letter framed as a lawsuit, she cited Bible passages that described homosexuality as an abomination and against nature. And she said, Never before has the nation been besieged by sin. An Auburn woman calling herself an ambassador for God and his son, Jesus Christ, filed a lawsuit on Friday against all homosexuals. I add, she's also a member of the Westboro Baptist Church. I think that's a part I forgot to mention here. Sylvia Driscoll, yeah, because it showed the picture there of her out with their giant God Hates Fags sign. I'm like, truly, what a loving individual. I can't imagine why people are pushed away from Jesus all the time because of these so-called Christians out there that have nothing better to do than attack people. I'm like, oh, really? Because I'm pretty sure Jesus' 2 commandments there is love thy God with all thy heart and love thy neighbor as thyself. Pretty sure he didn't tell you anything else there, getting up on your high horse, but okay.
Yeah, it wasn't love your neighbor. Right.
Yeah, Sylvia Driscoll, 66, said that in the suit that she is petitioning the U.S. District Court of Omaha to be heard in the matter of homosexuality is a sin or not a sin. Is the 7-page letter framed as a lawsuit? She cited Bible passages, and it continues on. Will the judges of this nation Will the judges of this nation judge God to be a liar? Driscoll asked. She said she petitioned the court because she felt it imperative to stand up for moral principles on which the nation was founded. Okay, 2 Real News take on it. There's a whole lot to go with there. Moral principles this nation was founded on. When was that? Before or after we were genociding the Native Americans? Was it before or after slaves were considered 2/3 of a human being? Was this before or after women were completely treated like garbage? Let's see. Was this before or after the guys that are a bunch of Freemasons and Rosicrucians and Hellfire Club members and stuff like that, or Swedenborgians decided to sign the Declaration of Independence? I'm sorry, man. I don't want to be the guy that just has to bash on the America thing there, but give me a break. Anybody that wants to act morals. Like this is some... Yeah.
So, I mean, he who's, cast the first stone, that's the whole thing. And these people are just, they're attacking the wrong thing. I mean, if they were truly Christian people, if they were truly people of God, they would be out helping people. They wouldn't care. They would think that the love of God, if somebody finds Jesus and they change their life, maybe they won't be a homosexual, or maybe they will. I don't think anybody has the power to say what God says or hates or not. I mean, we have the Bible, but I mean,
is that when you think about it,
it's
man?
Horrible. I mean,
that's everybody
speaking for God,
if not more so than what's her face, Julia Roberts and stuff with that "I am Mother Earth, I want to wipe out humanity" type speech she had there, or whatever, of trying to speak for the entire planet. Literally, the only thing you could do more offensive is be like, "I speak for the Creator of all existence," and I'm like, wow, that's
it's almost like they're wanting to find the news. They're wanting to get on the news, and this is the way they're doing it, and it's sick and wrong. That is not
shock. That's not the way. And I mean, they're the same guys that have this "God hates the troops"
speaking for
these people are doing, or the violence itself there, or whatever. But I'm not going to say there that God hates the individual troops there, or whatever. Is we're all literally children of God. So why? Or he hates you, who he created there, or whatever. It's you hate the sin, not the man, and that's.
Yeah. I'm sure he disapproves.
I don't know. I mean, I think honestly, I have a kind of a similar thing there, or whatever, of being anti-war and Christian and all that. That is a good stance to have, but of the way that they have to frame it and everything like that, there of being just the most hateful, narrow-minded people possible, does nothing but turn others away from Christ. Exactly. Because then they associate you and your vitriolic spew that you want to put out there with the words of God.
Yep. That's people get this wrong sense
dangerous.
of what
that you want to talk about people that are dancing on thin ice there. That's definitely a group.
Yeah, they're going to have a lot of accounting to do for some.
Well, no, I don't. It's because you know what I mean with any of that. It's none of my business. None of my business with them and everything like that until they want to go out into the public arena and start pushing all of this on other people and standing up on the high horse. Because honestly, whatever you're doing, heck, you could hold all these views you've got right there as the Westboro Baptist Church people in your heart. I don't care what's in your heart as far as all that, man. That's between you and God. That's you. But as far as your actions and what you're doing, give me a break. We have freedom of speech in this country. We have freedom of expression, but you also have to deal with the consequences of what you're saying. And do not dare expect to not be rebuked, because that's exactly what's going to happen when you come up and start preaching hate, period.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, there's Bible passages that even talk about, if you are innocent, pick up the rock and throw it at the guy who's actually sinful, because I don't think there's one of us that should ever be condemning it. I mean, this is not what it means to be, a Christian. And unfortunately, these people are bashing them, and they're making a very, it's like almost the extremist of Christianity. And it's not even Christianity, because you don't hate in that.
This ties in perfectly with this. And it's like a day or two old there, but we've kind of covered this. At least I did for the news there or whatever a couple days ago. Prophet Muhammad cartoon exhibition shooting. 2 armed men shot dead after opening fire on free speech event in Garland, Texas. And I'm going to get kind of into the different aspects of this there. But as far as on both sides of this group, I'm just going to read the story real quick here, and then we'll go into this. But the United States is once again reeling after 2 gunmen reportedly opened fire at an exhibition displaying cartoons of Prophet Muhammad, were themselves shot dead. Initial reports said the men may have been carrying explosives. Reports on Sunday night said the men were shot outside an event near Dallas that had styled itself as an extreme free speech exhibition. A security guard was reportedly shot and injured. Reports said a large number of police officers were on duty at the event, perhaps in anticipation of some sort of problem. Quote, we were prepared for something like this because there are additional officers hired by the school district. Joe Harn, a spokesman for the Garland Police Department, told a press conference on Sunday evening, there's a lot of investigating to be done. Reuters said the men were shot and killed after firing on the guard outside the Curtis Polwell Center in Garland, Texas, during a so-called family event where caricatures of the Prophet Muhammad were being displayed. The shooting is said to have happened around 7 p.m. local time. The event had been organized by Pamela Geller, the head of the American Freedom Defense Initiative, AFDI, the New York-based organization which had previously been the center of controversy in San Francisco, where it paid for anti-Muslim advertisements to be put on city buses, had been hosting a contest at the center that intended to award $10,000 for the best cartoon depicting Muhammad. She told Fox News, quote, this terrible event is how illustrative of how crucial the issue of free speech is. The Associated Press said there were fears that the vehicle belonging to the gunman may contain an incendiary device. A bomb squad was dispatched to the scene, and nearby businesses were evacuated. The building and surrounding area was placed on lockdown by the police and SWAT team, with hundreds of attendees still inside after multiple gunshots were heard. Now, we're going to go into some of the more nuanced aspects of this, but just from the beginning there, Jason, the American Freedom Defense Initiative is essentially like I believe it was the EDL, the English Defense League, that they had over there in the UK, that was essentially a group that did nothing but attack all Muslim people based upon like extremist Muslim stuff or whatever, of a few actions of a few people, just like everyone of all Muslims is all bad or whatever. And literally one of their leaders there, this guy named Tommy Robinson, ended up completely changing out of this and leaving the entire group because he realized that he was being duped into spewing a bunch of hateful crap that did nothing but attack a bunch of people and literally create nothing but division and fuel us from being distracted from the real issue and the real people that are the problem. In his case, the real people that are the problem in England there that set a lot of these policies and government that create the environment that even causes all this controversy, as opposed to the actions of a few individuals, regardless of whether they be Muslim, Christian, Irish, Scottish, English, whatever. Doesn't really matter. But
yeah, it's incredible, Seth. It's when I heard this, I was blown away. And number one, at the stone cold heartedness of Americans to begin with. Here's the deal. People don't realize the borders have been open for a long time now, and that people are pictured going across the border every single day with lots of stuff with them. And most of these guys are Muslim. And so we have our president.
Majority of them are Hispanic. There, I would say first off,
true.
And then you've got groups of like
African employees or crossing
stuff. Yeah.
And I saw one report that said ISIS was in 48 states right now. I saw another one from Fox News that said 13 states or something of the sort.
And that could just be good old fashioned fear mongering.
It could be. It definitely could be. But it's the free speech. There's a difference between free speech and being just totally pompous and being, why would you ever? The person who organized that, in my 2 cents, should be put in jail for murder, because there's no reason. I mean, yes, we can have free speech. We can say whatever we want to say, but as a civilized world, as a civilized, a nation that we thought we were, it's just ridiculous that we would
someone else's beliefs whatsoever.
We would cheat on somebody else's religion, and I mean, these people.
Yeah, well, Jason, let's be honest though. This is the United States, where we have stuff like Piss Christ put on board there, because nobody, even of the Christians here in the United States, hold anything sacred anymore. Nobody of any of these institutions holds anything sacred. People can literally like rub your face in the most disgusting of vitriol over anything, over your religious beliefs, your political beliefs, whatever. You hold nothing sacred and will let them literally bend you over like a punk in prison over whatever. And now we're surprised because these guys literally hold this sacred, literally believe this with everything. And we know what happens all the time when they tell you of not portraying pictures of the Prophet Muhammad. Well, regardless, we know of connections with intelligence agencies and everything there, and the Charlie Hebdo shooting and all that stuff. That's still the same exact thing. Some of the most disgusting, evil stuff you could possibly put out against people, be they Christian, Jewish, Muslim, whatever, just absolutely offensive. And yet it's totally fine for them to do this. Look, I agree. Free speech should be 100% free. However, you do have to deal with the consequences of what you're saying. And I agree with you, Jason. She should be tried for, at very least, homicide or whatever you want to say, negligent homicide or negligent manslaughter or something like that. Because, come on. And
I mean,
we're going to
where's our heart? Where, are we this cold of a nation already? I mean, is this it? I mean, this is what we do. We make fun of somebody else's religion for fun. We make a cartoon of it. Let's not just make a picture or take a picture. Let's do the most horrible thing ever, make a caricature of it. I mean, that's just, it's so disrespectful. It is so disrespectful.
It's the same thing of the Charlie Hebdo when they had the thing there of, and Christians here didn't get it until some people in alternative media put out some of their other stuff that they had, because everybody here just had the pictures of Prophet Muhammad, and everybody, it's so hilarious, or whatever, like Muhammad raping a goat or whatever, just absolutely
it's
just
disrespectful.
Horrid. And then they have a thing of, was it Jesus, Moses, and like an Illuminati triangle with like the all-seeing eye in it or something, like having a three-way, and they started putting that out, and finally the Fox News crowd started getting it, and it's like, oh, fine, so if it's somebody not insulting your religion or your beliefs, then it's okay. But now all of a sudden, once you see what it's like when the shoe's on the other foot, it's not quite so nice. It's not
Comedy
quite
Hour
so
isn't
an issue.
Exactly. Yeah, Comedy Hour sucks.
But here's something out of InfoWars that's an interesting angle, and then confirming it as another thing. But first off, out of InfoWars, FBI informant met with Garland shooting suspect. Informant posed as Muslim interested in jihad. Elton Simpson, the man identified as one of the two gunmen killed in Garland, Texas on Sunday outside the Muhammad art exhibit and contest, was under surveillance by the FBI and subject to a terror investigation. Court papers filed in Arizona reveal the FBI, quote, engaged an informant, Mr. Daba Ding, who was from Kenya and who knew Mr. Simpson from the mosque he attended. In 2007, Ding, or Dang, whatever his name is, D-E-N-G, Dang, was instructed by the FBI to, quote, become friends with Mr. Simpson and get to know him better by presenting himself as an individual who was new to Islam and sought to learn more from Mr. Simpson. Dang recorded conversations with Simpson during which they alleged discussed jihad. Simpson was convicted of lying to federal agents about plans to travel to Africa, where investigators said he planned to join a terror group. He was sentenced to 3 years probation. The FBI has arranged numerous fake terror plots, including the Washington Metro bombing plot, the New York subway bombing plot, the plan to blow up the Sears Tower in Chicago, the plot to bomb the Portland Christmas tree lighting, and others. Also, I would add, just on a note here, in Seattle, of the guy that was allegedly going to bomb the Space Needle on a couple gas stations. The exact same scenario. In 2014, Human Rights Watch released a report stating nearly all high-profile domestic terrorism plots in the United States after 9/11 included the direct involvement of government agents and informants. Quote, in some cases, the FBI may have created terrorists out of law-abiding individuals by suggesting the idea of taking terrorist action or encouraging the target to act, the report states.
Oh, incredible, Seth. Incredible.
Yeah. No, and that's just it,
it's though. It's our own people.
That's why with all of this there, Jason, it's like, while I get that a certain amount of stuff is blowback, there is the natural phenomena of, in the case of this thing, of you talking just the worst garbage about somebody's sacred beliefs there, that they naturally get pissed off and react there. But also the fact that the FBI is pushing people to do this domestically in the same way the CIA is doing this on a foreign level or internationally with groups like ISIS or the Khorasan group, which is completely contrived, or so-called Al-Qaeda and all this stuff, that is really just, for the most part, they're foreign contractors taking some of the less educated of the younger Middle Eastern Arab, Middle Eastern Muslim population, radicalizing them as much as possible, because of the fact that U.S. military destabilization has already created a very strong anti-Western feeling in the area, and then they capitalize on it, create their own enemy, justify further invasion, and it's the same old story, different day. And that's exactly what seems to happen here in the United States with the FBI, and it gets really, really frustrating when I hear all these people talk about how evil James Holmes is, or how evil, the Boston bomber guys are. No, they don't deserve trials. We don't need to hear it, or whether just take them out and shoot them or something. It's just disgusting. It's disgusting because I know that most of the people saying that don't even realize that they could be in the exact same position like that. These people in the COINTELPRO programs, well, with COINTELPRO, they did literally everything they could to create extremist groups by destroying people's relationships with their families, between their relationship with their wives or children, relationships with their best friends, relationships with other people in the organizations that they're in, and literally creating a contrived force. So then you're isolated from everyone, and then they do what they can of sending their informant in, their snitch, their rat in, to turn you into an extremist. And literally, by the time you figure it out in most cases, it's too late. One of the only guys to have ever figured it out is, I believe, the World Trade Center bomber guy that they had set up there with the fake explosives and everything, and then he figured out what they were doing, called his lawyer, and recorded his conversation with his handler, which is exactly what needs to happen with more of these people. If you realize that you're being controlled, that the only way that you're ever going to have a chance is to go as public with it as possible, as soon as possible.
Exactly. Yeah. Save yourself and come public and put yourself in the limelight and make yourself, a poster boy for what, you were about to do. That's the only way to save yourself from these guys. And it's incredible that, it's just like, I think John, what is that, the Malvo guy, the DC sniper, the one that, we're talking about, corrupting the young kids. I mean, his accomplice was just a young kid. And, it is so easy to manipulate these people, and our government is the masters. They are the masters of manipulation and creating stuff. And, you got to wonder why. Why is this? Why don't we just have a peaceful, country where we're building our infrastructure and we're doing this stuff, unless there's something else going on? I mean, what would happen if we have 48, sets of ISIS groups here and we're sitting here doing cartoons? I mean, it's just a matter of time before somebody really does get crazy with this, and it's not like they're not set up for martial law. I mean, they're sitting on 7 states and another, it's been unconfirmed, but there's like another 6 states that they're in and around right now for Jade Helm. And, all they need is something like this to go off, and
and how easy would that be, Jason? I mean, think of right now how much U.S. foreign policy has created its own enemies right there. Would you be that surprised if the United States were to attack someone like Venezuela, if some Venezuelans in the United States decided to start doing what we would consider terrorist actions there or whatever? Would we be that surprised if people from Iraq or people from Syria, or in Yemen, because we're supporting that, or in Libya, or in Egypt, or from wherever, or in Palestine, would decide to do some of this stuff, or in Ukraine, some of these people from Western Ukraine or Eastern Ukraine? Would you be that surprised if some of these people were to come here and attack some stuff? Give me guys, a break. We're literally playing with people's lives. Yes, sir.
Do you guys ever see the movie Swordfish?
Yeah.
Basically, at the end of the movie, you find out that nothing is what you thought it was. Sometimes
that's
people
how they operate.
Don't die, and that the world is controlled by controlled acts of war and terrorism. And
it's definitely
agreed. And they play up on a certain amount of what naturally happens because of their own actions. It's like, it's really sophisticated when you get to it, and it's beyond something that even a single sociopath can do. And it's a network of sociopathy, that essentially Satan can operate as the ghost in the machine of the bureaucracy itself. That's one of the things that's most dangerous about communism, or most dangerous about what the creation of fascism, which, as much as we want to act as though it's something different, fascism is what business or corporate interests have taken over the state, and communism is the state, the party, has taken over religion, business, and corporations, everything like that. It's the same thing pretty much. At the end of the day, a small minority controls pretty much everything. And that's scary.
And no empathy.
They can use the fact that I don't make the laws, I just enforce them to kill you, to enslave you, to do whatever. It doesn't matter. I mean, as Martin Luther King Jr. himself says, never forget that everything Hitler did was legal.
Right. Yeah, and we funded him as well. Yeah.
Well, here's a good one to just kind of finish up stuff with the that Texas attack. Is doubts raised about Islamic State's claim in Texas attack, as they did claim allegedly, and I'm sure it was probably through their Twitter or something like that, that they claimed responsibility for the attack. But the Islamic State group claimed responsibility Tuesday for the assault on a Texas cartoon contest that featured images of the Prophet Muhammad. But counterterrorism experts said IS had a history of asserting involvement in attacks in which they had no operational role. That definitely sounds exactly like something that the FBI and the CIA and all those guys engage in.
I don't understand why people aren't calling for Obama to answer for this. I mean, he's the one that opened the borders up. I mean, where is the accountability?
Not just the borders there, Jason, have created an international war, the scopes of which literally even I never would have thought at the time there that anybody could have topped George W. Bush with the amount of evil, absolutely, domestically and internationally. But Obama has done his finest on that one. So as far as that, when people say Obama is a great man, he's not a good man. Great as far as big, I guess, as far as what he's done, as far as destroying this
he's
country
done some big things.
and destroying peace around the entire world. I mean, how dystopian or
destroy our economy. I mean, oh my goodness.
We have a guy that's a constitutional lawyer that never follows the Constitution. We have a guy that is a Nobel Peace Prize winner that has done more to disrupt peace internationally than any human being in history.
We got a guy, we don't even know his middle name.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, we don't know who this guy is. So
yeah, because who is he? Barry Soetoro? Is he whatever?
His brother doesn't claim fame to him.
Obama. Is his daddy really Frank Marshall Davis? Is his dad really Barack Obama Sr.? I mean, it's so much of this. Who knows? Who knows? His mom's connected to the CIA and all this, so it's just, who knows? He's the man with no name, the man with no past, the enigma in the White House. He is just beyond anything I understand. But let's see, continuing. This suggests that two gunmen could have carried out their own lone wolf-style strike before they were shot and killed on Sunday's shooting of the Dallas suburb of Garland. I think this is an interesting limited hangout there, Jason, of the fact that they have the Islamic State guys try and take credit for it. But the fact of the matter is, the Islamic State essentially is the CIA, MI6, Mossad, all of these guys rolled into one. The MIT, Ministry of Intelligence in Turkey, all these types of guys, the DGSE in France, same dang thing. All of them together, the what the heck is the one in Germany? The Bundeslachennacht or whatever they have. I wish they do acronyms, but something ridiculous. And they do
and you're right. Thing. They're built by us, controlled by us. I mean, everybody's known this. ISIS in Iraq is still our CIA counterpart. I mean,
they tried to change the name from Al Qaeda to ISIS to throw people off of the Islamic State. But the fact of the matter is, anyone with any sophistication or knowledge of culture at all, especially Arabic culture, would know that they don't do acronyms. Like the Germans there, they use long-winded names.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't go ISIS, and they also wouldn't use ISIS, the name of what they would consider a heathen deity.
Right. Yeah. It's unreal. And with all the firepower that we have, I mean, we're able to do just enormous things. We can invade countries and destroy them and have shock and awe. We can't go get some guys on the ground in Iraq. I mean, we
and where do they get the brand new trucks? Why do they all have outfits that are the same, that look like something out of freaking G.I. Joe? Why do they all have why do these guys are supposed to be the most extremist Muslims out there? Why have they done nothing to truly attack Western interests or Israel? Why are they also enemies of Hamas, enemies of the Palestinian Authority, enemies of Hezbollah, enemies of the government in Jordan, enemies of Bashar al-Assad, enemies of the Iranian government, enemies of the Houthis in Yemen? It's like, come on.
History that has so many TikTok people that thrive so well. I mean, it's just amazing how well these guys operate.
When you look at it, though, of just how obvious it is that who these guys work for, who they are, that they are a proxy, is the fact that their enemies are everyone that is an enemy of U.S. foreign policy, of Israeli foreign policy, of UK foreign policy, of Turkish foreign policy, of Saudi Arabian foreign policy. It's the exact same thing, just over and over again. All AQAP is a little arm that Saudi Arabia can use to threaten the rest of the Arabian Peninsula. It's what they do. They use it to threaten Oman. They use it to threaten the UAE. They use it to threaten Yemen. They use it to threaten Qatar. all the same stuff. And granted, while the little royalties that they have there and the dynasties they have in some of those other countries there do the same thing and are part of this, and totally, even Bahrain and all that are totally in Kuwait, totally all right with this. They have no problem functioning in such scumbagly a manner. However, Saudi Arabia always has to have that little extra bit there because they, like everyone else, learned that from the United States, and before that, Britain. Right. Almost all this stuff comes from the Hegelian dialectic, which has been practiced by British socialists known as Fabian socialists for a long time. And even before that, the power play technique had been used long before any of these people, back to the days of the Romans.
Yeah, and they've never been held accountable for 9/11 either. I mean, even if, nobody throws it out there because everyone's so scared of losing that oil. They're so scared.
Well, and I mean, so much of this, Jason, really, are we going to sit here and be afraid anymore with any of this? Because somebody might say, oh, that's crazy because you think that. Literally, the writing is on the wall. So much of this stuff is out there. This isn't my opinion. You can go look this up. This isn't just stuff that is in the alternative media. It's in your dang mainstream media. You just have to be able to read between the lines a little bit, but it's all right there. It's Benazir Bhutto herself is the one that said Osama bin Laden had been dead since like 2001. Yep. And not even a year after that, heck, not even a month after that, I believe, she gets her brains blown out. So let's not pretend that this is some just, oh, whatever, it's made up, you know what I mean? Oh, come on.
Hey, guys, if I may quote Roger Landry from, what's the name of his news site again? Oh, Liberty Beacon. Do your research, people! We can't make this stuff up. I dare you to prove me wrong.
Oh, ever on any of this is so much of, I think that's what actually wins us so many people in the end, is putting this information out there. And the fact is, when you start putting opinions out there and all this type of stuff, people can't verify that. They can't see that for themselves, so it starts getting weird. But when you have solid information they can just go look up for themselves and make their own decisions on, then you start gaining credibility with people. And I think that's what's so important about us doing, is we need to rehumanize everyone, because even the people that are so deceived by this system, that hate my guts, that hate your guts with a passion, man, that literally just leave me alone, I don't want to hear it. Those people are just as deceived as you and I once were. We once waved the flags and cheered on for people marching into Iraq to go bomb people the same as anyone else. We once did all this stuff on the high horse there of judging other people, of trying to be this fake contrived human being of what they want to try and put you into, this box they want to try and put you in, with all this media garbage, with all this garbage in, garbage out type of a system. And once you break through it, you realize that everyone there really is just a bunch of victims for the most part. And the only way to truly be empowered is to break away from fear, is to completely break the chains of fear that they have us all crippled with, that they have us all shackled with, because they want to just keep us divided by being afraid of you and me and anyone else there, of being afraid of other ideologies, of being afraid of other people's actions or their societies or how they do things, when the fact of the matter is, it ain't none of your business. We need to be handling stuff here in the United States. People in Australia need to be handling stuff in Australia. People in the United Kingdom need to be handling stuff in the United Kingdom. Period. People in Russia need to be handling stuff in Russia. People in China need to be handling stuff in China. We need to stop playing games and trying to mess with the rest of the world as though we know what's best, because we don't. We've obviously already shown we don't even know what's best for our nation right now. It's falling to pieces. It's literally, we're losing everything that we've got, that we ever held sacred or ever held to be precious.
It's already gone. Yeah, it's
and until we get it back, it's never going to be what we had. Period. And even then, I don't lionize what we had, because so much of this, people will try and lionize it and make it seem as though it's some unattainable goal, and it's not unattainable. It's not at all. No. There's so much of the stuff that we have come far as a society.
I mean,
think of
even
it. There was a point when slaves were that was just totally fine. And I don't mean slaves as in just black slaves. I mean the fact of the coolies, the wage slaves, or the Chinese wage slaves, or the Irish wage slaves, or indentured servants. We don't call them slaves. You're an indentured servant. Or the Italian wage slaves. Same exact thing. People have come from all over this world to the United States and been treated like garbage, even into the modern day right now, with Hispanic immigrants and people coming from Ethiopia, people coming from Somalia, people coming from Kenya, people coming all the way from Thailand and Burma, people coming from Indonesia and still being treated like garbage here at the United States. And the fact of the matter is, we've all paid our dues. We've all come from all over the world, and everybody just needs to get off it. Because until we can handle things here in the United States, and we can really bring people together, and we can make this a country worth coming to and worth living in, then we got nothing to offer the rest of the world.
Exactly. No, you're well said, dude. Very well said. I mean, that's perfect, man. And I agree. You know, and people are always talking about the economy and how we have, you know, the economy's falling apart and how we owe so much money. I mean, if at the end of the day, I think if people realized who we technically owed, I don't think they would consider this debt whatsoever. I think they would consider it a setup and a crime. And I think we would be, you know, forget the debt, forget all these trillions that we can never ever pay back in our lifetimes.
Yeah, it's not our responsibility. We never spent that.
Exactly. Yeah, we didn't spend it, and it's been a sham from the very beginning. And so that's the first thing I think people have to do to wake up, is to realize that, you know, all this money that we owed, it's not a real bank, it's not a real corporation. These are individuals that have done this to us. And if we keep going in the direction we're going to go, you know, we're going to go down. I mean, right now, the most deeming thing that people need to realize is Jade Helm, whether it be just a psyop or whether it be something else. Yeah. If you sit here and let the noose get around your neck so far you can't undo it, you're done. And it just for the fact that just take into account that maybe somebody would pull the trigger, maybe somebody would. Is this the kind of world you want to live in? And this is the time right now that we still have an opportunity to stop what's about to happen, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, agreed. Absolutely there, Jason. I think Jade Helm, they've had you notice the news media, the mainstream, has done more to try and make it seem as though it is the be-all, end-all, ready to, you know what I mean? Also switches flip there of, oh, it's the invasion, all this stuff, just so they can try and discredit it more. What I've been saying from the beginning is that this is another training exercise that is, granted, a giant step-up training exercise, but it sure as heck isn't just a psyop there. They're training for a reason in all this. It's just, I don't think that they're going to quite go hot with something when it's been that well put out there. You know what I mean? If they're going to go hot, it's going to be something that you or I don't even. Yeah, we're never going to even like get wind of it by the time it hits. It's literally going to start on some 6 a.m. or 3 a.m. type stuff. It's never going to be just right out in the open, and we're going to let you know and everything like that beforehand.
Well,
but the fact of the matter is, we've still got cops that are breaking people's spines and then want to act like. And I mean, we'll cover this when we get back from the break and everything there more in detail. But before we go, of just the Fox Newses and some of the so-called alternative media stuff that is a lot more of they're pretty much just neocons or right-wingy type of a stuff there that they want to use the same slant that Fox and all these guys use, of acting as though there's no such thing as police brutality or that it's totally justified of what these cops do and everything like that. But the fact of the matter is, white, black, whatever, which as you and I know of, race is completely contrived. It doesn't matter. Literally, it doesn't exist. We're all human beings. There's no such thing as white or black. You're an American. You are a whatever your descent is as far as ethnicity or nationality there. You could be, if you're black, you could be a Moroccan American or a whatever, an Ethiopian American or a South African American or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, you're an American, regardless. And they're killing us all. Period. The laws itself, and it's not even just the cops. The cops and the individuals and the people on the ground, the soldiers, the troops, they all have the moral culpability of being the people that are the trigger pullers, that are the button pushers, that are the people that are actually there doing it, and they have to stop it. But the fact of the matter is, they too are victims of these laws, of this system that has been put in place because so many of them are so brainwashed and put into their own fear-based prison of us versus them, of the fact that every last citizen out there wants to kill a cop or whatever, and I need to be so scared of literally like finger on the trigger. If one of us is going to die, man, it's going to be me or him, me or him, me or him, just in every situation there. And they're willing to beat people to death. They're willing to do all this stuff. It's not right. It's not right. And it does nothing productive there, when the fact of the matter is only about, out of the 100 cops or so that die in the United States on duty every year, about half of those are traffic accidents. And then of the half that's left, it's something like 35 to 40 are actual like homicides in which they're shot by somebody. Compared to the fact that just the numbers they report, between 400 and 500 people a year in the United States are reported to be killed by police departments. But the nuanced part of that you need to realize is that only about 4% of police departments volunteer those numbers.
Right. Yeah,
so let's multiply that by 25, and we're looking at something more like 10,000 people. So let's go on the short end of that. Let's say more like a few thousand there in the United States are killed by police every year. That is a huge difference. There is nothing, nada, that should be even close to that. It's the same thing as we get to... In fact, you know what? We're going to skip the break here, Jason, and we're just going to keep going, man. I don't even... Who needs a break on this? This is how we do. This is over.
That's right. Yeah, no, you're right, man. And it's people not stepping back and not thinking. I mean, they're sensationalizing it. And I saw that one where the policeman was shot in New York just the other day. And police get shot every day. They don't die, but they get shot every day. And this guy, I don't know if he died or not. I haven't followed up on that. But if he didn't, Fox News broke that, and all of a sudden it's out of New York. And I was looking at this. Why are they just pushing on this? Why don't we get when other cops are shot? I mean, you never hear about just, a cop got shot in the leg. He's good. You barely hear of anything other than somebody dying or somebody going completely crazy on one side or the other. 6 cops beating some guy senseless till his spine, he can't even walk anymore, or the black guys just like unloading on a cop car right there. It's just there's none of the. It's either one way or the other, and you see the one extreme or you see the other extreme, and there's nothing.
It pushes us so farther. It's about radicalizing us and keeping us from realizing the people at the other end of that gun or at the other end of the TV set or whatever there are human beings like us.
Speaking of the TV set, it's all these dang games, these violent games. I mean, where you're out there blowing people away. I mean, I can't even look at some of the video games; they're so graphic anymore. Yeah. And that's from a guy.
Television and all that, Jason. It contrives so much more violence in reality and society than there really is, and to a degree, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that's why we can say of why they put pre-programming and all this stuff. It's not just to rub it in your face. And I mean, I'm not even going to get into the whole thing of what they consider like the Masonic style of magic or whatever, of creating your own reality and all this type of stuff. But that's pretty much what it is. Of literally, you put it out there to people. They absorb it through their culture there for however long, be it 1 year, be it 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, however much beforehand, it's programmed into them so that when it happens, you are much more likely to get the desired outcome because people will begin to think that they came up with this idea themselves.
And that's what the scary thing about the TV is it is constantly programmed. It's the reason that when you say conspiracy theory and to different people, they're like, oh yeah, that crazy guy, that's built into them. Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, that is built into them. That is what, we've seen the shows. We've seen the actual show called Conspiracy Theory. I mean, we are, guys like you and I are supposed to sound crazy. We're supposed to sound like totally over the top, like this could never, ever happen because it's so wild. But that's the crazy thing about this, is it is wild. It is so far over the top. Most people don't understand how true evil can exist and do the kinds of things that we're talking about when it truly does.
Yeah, well, our most important mission, first and foremost, is to break people out of all the divisive garbage that want to put you in to try and keep your soul shuttered, that want to try and shutter your mind, that want to try and keep you weak, that want to try and keep you staring at the dirt instead of looking up right in front of you or looking towards the sky or just seeing the world around you. They want to keep you staring at something so little because even the most amazing of technology they can put out there is literally nothing compared to the amazingness of creation around you, of the individuals and people around you, the relationships between people that the relationships between people and animals, the relationships between people and nature, the relationships between all of this, of literally of the planets, of stars, of matter itself, of energy, of gravitational forces, of physics, of all of this, of literally just how infinitely awesome this is. And yet they want to keep us just so ugly, so shunted, so put into this just little pigeonholed box that we just can't ever break out of it. And once we do, then you can start seeing stuff that, as we'll go into later and everything like that, that is a lot more, some people consider it scary, but when you approach it from the right way and the right discernment, first and foremost, none of it's scary, man. None of it's scary. Honestly, I'm so tired of fear anymore with any of this. I take it all literally of just standing up and living it, of just looking at it, reading it, and just saying it, digesting it, and dealing with it. Because no matter what, fear profits a man nothing. Nothing.
And if nobody does anything, I mean, we're just going to live in this same kind of world. We're going to give this to our kids. We're going to leave even worse hellhole than we already have right now into it, and it's our own fault. We slept through it. We let that TV tell us what to do. It's why Steve Jobs' his kids never played with an iPod. You know, he refused to let them have that, and that right there, you know, the guy who brainstormed this, you should know they know exactly how they're programming us, and why wouldn't you let your own kid, if you devise something, why wouldn't you let them have it unless you knew it was
Monsanto, dude. Syngenta, all that same exact stuff. Why do most of the people that television executives and all that, their families don't watch TV, or the people that make the Hollywood people and all that, most of their families don't watch Hollywood movies and everything like that because they're like, it's garbage. It's all garbage. You know what those people do? They read.
They thought our demise.
And they discourage us from reading. They discourage us from any sort of real critical thought there. And it's always good to remember and important to remember that one of the first things they do when you're enslaved, all throughout human history, doesn't matter if this is being enslaved to the Catholic Church circa 700 or all the way back to the beginnings there of like 300 and whatever AD, all the way to like the 1800s there, of not being able to read the Bible or just not being able to read in general. I mean, and the Bible is one of the only things you got there to read, so most of these people are completely illiterate, and nobody ever just starts to get it together. Nobody can ever become informed enough to actually go out in the world and not be completely bigoted, not be completely shuttered, not go out there and just be like, oh, this is the way it is because so-and-so told me. I mean, we don't need arbiters between ourselves, or not arbiters. We don't need mediators between ourselves and God. We don't need mediators between ourselves and the truth. We don't need mediators between ourselves and reality. We don't need mediators between ourselves and the rest of the world. So much of this is literally, you would not be a bigot. You would not be pro-militarism. You would not be pro-big government. You would not be pro-communism. You would not be pro-super capitalism, or what they call it, of the contrived essentially of just, well, capitalism from a form of government to a form of religion, essentially, where you begin to worship money. Because indeed, money is not the root of all evil. The love of money is. And so much of this is turned into that, of everything that we've seen here. There are literally people that will look at wealth itself, that will look at things that people have around them and view it jealously, of be like, nobody needs to have this much. But in reality, if your heart is pure, you think everyone, or as many people as possible, should have as much as possible, should be as empowered as possible, should have as good a lives as possible, should be as loving and caring and receive as much as possible. Everyone, so much of this stuff is to keep you selfish, is to keep you just this little, just tiny person that they can control.
Yeah, and you can watch 30 minutes of TV programming, and you'll have opinions that you didn't even know you had. And it's these big guys. It's these guys that are trying to exterminate the people in the world that live in the 42 house room, houses that have 42 rooms into it, and it's this guy. It is the most despicable thing ever, and half of the stuff's not even used, but yet they have it just to kind of look at what I got. Then they talk about our carbon emissions, and they're like wiping us out so that they can have bigger houses. It makes no sense unless you're clinically insane.
It's the same as the conservative, so-called conservative Christian guys there in the Republican Party talking about how terrible homosexuality is, while at the same time engaging in their own homosexual or bisexual acts. Give me a break, man. Nothing quite so bad as a hypocrite. It's literally, man.
Exactly.
Just leave people alone, and you could do whatever. Just stop portraying yourself as someone who you are not.
Yeah, the world could be a wonderful place if we didn't have people that had an agenda and it was a bad one.
Oh, exactly. But that's just it, though, Jason, is people will always have that, and that's what's so important about us informing people and us being empowered there as individuals, is to realize that while some people would say, oh, it's a good one. I heard this the other day. It was a great line. While some people might think it, while it's ignorant to think that as individuals we could ever change the world, the only thing more arrogant is to think that we can't.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's why we're here, man. That's why we're here. We're trying to wake and shake.
People, man, I don't want to change the world. I do.
Yeah, me too. I want a better life for my kids. I don't want to leave what I've had to live in the world. People are starting to come around.
On anyone, man.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. No, and I've had people come around that have called me crazy for years, and they're coming back to like, what do we do? And I'm like, well, if you would have stood up like 2 years ago when I've been talking to you guys and preaching, instead of labeling me a crazy man, we might have a chance. But as it sits, things are looking
it's pretty
grim.
late in the game. It's literally
it is.
It's how to get yourself right with God at this point, and going from here, because with His mercy and everything, this can go anywhere, man. We can take back this country, we can take back this world and everything. It doesn't necessarily have to be the immediate apocalypse, because I don't know when that is. You don't know when that is. Any of the people out here running their mouths like they know when it is, don't know when it is. Jesus Himself said there are many that are going to come there that are going to claim to be me. They're not Him. Period. Any of the people that want to tell you when it's going to end, you've got to be like the virgins trimming their wicks in the middle of the night there, waiting for the bridegroom. Period. Of the people that want to burn out their oil all quick and everything like that there and just go run off and whatnot, and it's just, it's just gone. You got to be just ready. Period. It's not something of this date it's going to happen. You've got to be all terrified or whatever. It's just being prepared, and that's the whole point of why it's being prepared, of not putting off any of this stuff, of literally living it right now.
Changing your
and if
life,
we don't start making the change right now within ourselves, we can't make this change in the rest of the world. We can't make this change in the United States. Heck, if we can't make this change in ourselves, we can't even make the change in the house that we live in, with the families we live with the communities we live in, with the states that we live in, and so on and so forth. None of this is going to change. It's all going to be the same stuff of them having us staring at the dirt while they're off trying to create something absolutely that we would consider absolutely evil, but they're super informed, they're super intelligent, they're with it, man, and they want to keep so many of us in just chains.
Slaves of the mind. Indeed. Well said.
I'm gonna let's see what we got. Do you have any news there to cover, brother?
Yeah, let me get to one. Going back to the, let's see here. So Monsanto right now, there's a class action lawsuit coming out of California that could deal another hard blow to the infamous Monsanto Corporation. The lawsuit was pointing out that glyphosate, the active ingredient in Monsanto's Roundup, is killing not only plants, but also targeting specific enzymes in the microbiome of the human gut. The more we apply glyphosate in agriculture and on our lawns, the greater its residue in foods produce. Ultimately, glyphosate residue makes it way into our gut and kills important species of bacteria that we depend on to stay healthy. The good bacteria colonies are responsible for regulating our immune system and helping it respond to invading pathogens. These bacteria help the body break down the nutrients and also protect the gut wall from being penetrated by other toxins. So I find, and here's the two real news take on this, I find it really crazy that, things are starting to fall. Things are starting to fall into place. We have McDonald's that had 700 store closings and no one even heard about it, and that's news. We have now the CDC scientist guy on the run, he's the fall guy for it. He's not even the main guy that did it. It's everyone else.
Agree.
He probably just took the $2 million. Then we have Monsanto. It's starting to take a shift. It's starting to take a turn. And if we can help with this wave of change, if there's any way possible to save us, keep pushing, and go on fire. There's nothing left to lose. There's really nothing truly left to lose. So we can only get better from
everything to gain. Nothing to lose and everything to gain, and that's what we need to live life like, every last one of us, is because in this, everybody wants to be so passive and so afraid and want other people to change things for them. It's never going to happen like that. The fact is, last 3 months here, almost last 4 months now, Monsanto's been recording profit losses. McDonald's has been recording profit losses. All of these major corporations have been recording profit losses, and those that haven't have been recording less profits than usual. They've actually been falling in terms of profits, which has been absolutely beautiful, because eventually these people are going to go out of business, and unfortunately that is going to lead to a slight vacuum for a while that people are going to need to fill. But you know what? I have way more faith in the mom and pop operations going up right now and all the independent businesses that are actually trying to replace the corporations than I do anything else. Period. Because we're making a change. I mean, everything from the makeup and stuff that people are using and all this and women are buying is changing, and we're having companies there that put out stuff that is completely clean and isn't chemically altered or chemically laced and created and processed and all this stuff. We have household cleaning products that's starting to make a change there. We've got foods, non-genetically altered foods, and also organically grown foods that are more nutritionally dense. Using new farming techniques and everything to actually remineralize the soil. There's so much of this that's so important that's all happening right now. But the fact of the matter is, unless you, as an individual listening to this, get on it right now and start doing what you can right now, you have no room to complain about anything, about to ever expect change. because the fact of the matter is no one can do everything, but everyone can do something, and every last little bit literally helps. It's every bit of the push here. Literally, we're trying to go with the teeter-totter effect there of you've got liberty and you've got whatever tyranny fighting back and forth there. These guys have pushed up for so long that they're actually starting to fall back now, and it's scaring them. They're trying to hit back, but so far it's not successful. All we have to do is go with the natural momentum of everything right now and push into it, and they'll fall. Period. Under the weight of
we got to use our brains when we do this. Yeah, we got to use our brains while we do this. We can't fall into this race war. We can't fall into what they're pushing on us. Everyone can see it. Everyone can see exactly what's happening. I wouldn't be surprised
they want black people and white people or whatever. They want light-skinned people and dark-skinned people to be fighting. They want so-called conservatives,
Muslims
represent the so-called racist group. They want us to hate Muslim people. They want us. Everybody has to be fighting each other. They want us to be suspicious now. They want us to hate Russian people. They want us to hate Chinese people. They want us to keep pushing it in every direction they possibly can. They want man and woman fighting. They want parents and children.
They have to have this.
Everything. Yeah.
They have to have this because it is the only way that we would cry, please bring us the New World Order. They have to have so much chaos, so much destruction, so much fear out there that people are like, okay, I tap out being a normal human. I will give you my, I will give you my life. You direct me. Yeah, exactly. You guide me where you want. And that is not the right answer. That is not the right answer for this. I mean, you need to be individualized. We need to be humans. We need to be free thinkers. And, it's about shutting that TV off and spending the time with your kids or your wife, or just don't let yourself be pre-programmed. It's scary what comes off the TV. And if you can break the TV habit, you have a chance at really critically thinking and, get on good shows like this. There's shows like this. There's it's all over. Not everybody is just straight conspiracy theory. These are facts. We never spout stuff we don't have facts for, and that's the difference between Two Real News and everyone else. Is that this is from the heart, and
yeah, we're having a technical difficulty. Skype went down for a minute and then came back on. All right, Andy, why don't you go to the break? We'll play the break song now.
ShakeandWakeRadio.com.
Changing the world one story at a time. We are your trusted news source for real facts, real stories, real perspective, and real world news that really matters. You have tuned into TwoRealNews.com's Daily Headline News with your hosts, Seth Davis and Jason Boss.
Breaking out of prison. One mind at a time.
We are the TwoRealNews.com
Broadcasting team on the Shake and Wake Radio Network.
and we are going live in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to Two Real News. Sorry for the technical difficulties there and everything. We're just trying to make stuff work here. It's been really powerful broadcast. I don't know. Maybe our good old buddies at the NSA decided that what we were saying was too powerful for those evil Americans to hear. There are people around the rest of the world there. So
Skype just got completely shut off.
I think we should give them something to get mad about then.
Yeah, I got to get with Jason on something
how the
block.
NSA converts spoken words into searchable text. Well, I've got a few choice words for the NSA that they could convert into text. Perhaps they can do that later. This is out of The Intercept. Most people realize that emails and other digital communications they once considered private can now become part of their permanent record. But even as they increasingly use apps that understand what they say, most people don't realize that the words they speak are not so private anymore either. Top secret documents from the archive of former NSA contractor Edward Snowden show that NSA can now automatically recognize the content within phone calls by creating rough transcripts and phonetic representations that can be easily searched and stored. The documents show NSA analysts celebrating the development of what they call Google for Voice nearly a decade ago. Though the perfect transcription of natural conversations apparently remains the intelligence community's holy grail, the Snowden documents describe extensive use of keyword searching as well as computer programs designed to analyze and extract the content of voice conversations and even use sophisticated algorithms to flag conversations of interest.
I read that thing, what Snowden was talking about too, and for people out there, the privacy advocates and people that here's the lowdown on what they can do. After 6 months, of say you get an email 6 months from now, from that date, it becomes public domain, and so they don't even need a warrant to go grab your email. So that's why stuff like Outlook or Yahoo and Google and all those, the Gmail stuff, after 6 months, everything you say is officially in their hands, and so that is a very scary.
Oh, don't think they use every last bit of that they can possibly get.
Like Jerry said, if you're a man and
no, yeah,
well,
anything, Rick.
I'll let Jerry.
We'll leave it up to people's imagination, but literally, yeah.
Right. He said if you're a man who's ever looked at adult stuff or ever talked to anybody online in any way, shape, or form, that they have all that stuff stored up, and it could be used for leverage against you. Like, you don't want your wife or your family or your mom to see this, do you? You know, they can use it to blackmail you or something.
But they can also make whatever they want up to try and blackmail you
as frame you,
yeah. So that's
Sorry for interrupting.
No, it's all good. We're in the
I mean, I'm sure if anybody on in our staff ever gets accused of having child porn on their computer, I know where that came from. NSA
exactly.
or CIA or whatever.
That's what the true irony of all this stuff is. The fact that most of these people are actually... It's like the child protection services people, that so many of them end up being caught as pedophiles. It's you got the Catholic Church guys that want to be like, oh, we're protecting people and the rest of the world and your rights and everything. The UN, I just covered a story for the news, I believe it was 3 days ago, about French contractors in the Central African Republic that have been contracted out by the United Nations for rescue services and rehabilitation services for all these trafficked children and everything. We're actually raping the little kids. So let's not pretend that the government is so innocent here. Because the fact of the matter is, they're all dirty. Period. When you have zero accountability.
Except for James Trafficant, and then you go to jail, you get set up, and then when you get out and try to write a book, they arrange a tractor accident for you. You all know James Trafficant, right?
Yep, I do.
That
I do. You know. But tie this in with what we were covering of voice recognition. This goes back to something out of the Associated Press. Accused Texas gunman well known to FBI before attack. This is what I had confirming the InfoWars stuff for people that, oh, it's alternative media, so it's not real or whatever, that want to say that sort of garbage. But the opening sentence of this ties in with what we were just talking about. Since at least 2007, the FBI has been able to recognize the voice of Elton Simpson, one of the men suspected in the Texas shooting outside a contest featuring cartoons of the Muslim prophet Muhammad. Agents recorded a young man from Phoenix talking about fighting non-believers for Allah, about plans to travel to South Africa and link up with brothers in Somalia, about using school as a cover story for traveling overseas. And it goes on and so forth from there. But the fact of the matter is, recognize the voice. Guarantee you data sharing is going on between the NSA, the FBI, the CIA, the ATF, the DEA, the DHS, anything, the DCI, anything you can think of.
Yeah, and having everything you've ever said could be very dangerous because you can audio, as you know, since you do a lot of audio editing, it's really easy to put voices and stuff together. You could say, I did not kill that man, and then you re-edit that, and it says I did kill that man, and it's all of a sudden, you just admitted to something you never did, and that's the scary part, when you're talking setups.
No, agreed, and that's the news media does that just as bad as anybody, but they don't necessarily most of the time have to edit the audio quite like that, so much as just take small sentences or half a sentence or whatever out of context. And these guys could do that in the same way. But the fact is they literally edit any audio you can think of. And I mean, so much of the stuff, once they're actually taken to task on something like this, they're willing to kill their patsy. They're willing to dope them up on so much Thorazine that they can barely stand up straight and put them on a kangaroo court mock trial there and then sentence them to death. And it's just think of that, how outrageous that is, that we can pretend there, anybody that's seen the pictures of James Holmes on trial there, say that man is not so whacked out on dope that he shouldn't be on trial, period. Because unless you're lucid, come on.
Yeah. Yep, not a fair fight.
Oh, they stabbed, what's his name, Dzhokhar Tsarnaev in the throat. So good thing he won't be able to talk during any of his testimony there. Glad for that. I'm sure his lawyer will do a great job speaking for him the whole time, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, people
Well,
can
that's a
get bought
similar
off
case
really easy.
too of the FBI and CIA knowing who these people are, and even in the case of the Tsarnaevs, that's something that Russian intelligence was extremely just all too happy to bring up in the mainstream media all over the world. There, even through outlets like Russia Today, of the fact that the Tsarnaev brothers, they'd warned U.S. intelligence before the fact that they were allowing these guys to travel to the United States. They have terrorist watch lists and blacklists or whatever for all sorts of people that have their no-fly list and stuff, and yet they let them on. When there are people that are on the no-fly list that are like 5-year-old kids, they have people that are on the no-fly list that are like 90-year-old men and women that have never done anything. They just happen to have whoever that they pissed off, that they've been arbitrarily put on, because there is no process for putting people on. There is no process for taking people off. You're on it one day and you find out.
Yep. Yeah. No. Exactly. And that's all it takes to really start, messing with somebody. And it's like we are against a lot of guys that have a lot more power than we do, and it's just a matter of time. If we keep letting things go the way they're going to go, we're going to get shut down. I mean, Infowars, they lost their Facebook account. Yeah. They got suspended because of the new Facebook law. Facebook decides that they are going to censor stuff, and they have a new system.
Jason, Google's already decided that they're going to censor what they call fake news. If it's not real, and of course that's what they've used stuff like the Daily Current or the Onion or whatever to put out there in the first place.
Wikipedia,
exactly, so that they can be garbage. What this is obviously fake news or whatever. So we need to isolate this, and then we're going to put actual real news that's alternative media news in there with it, and then anything that's mainstream that's a talking point that Google approves of is something in which they'll have in this search engine, and you'll be able to find. It's the exact same thing they're doing with Facebook. And the fact of the matter is, Jason, I want to know, do the individual people that work at Facebook or any of this stuff, or the individual people that work for the contractors for Blackwater or whatever there is, they call them Kraft, or what is it now? I can't even remember the stupid name they go with now. It's something ridiculous. But any of these people, do you really think that what you're doing is for the greater good? Do you really think that you're helping keep America safe, or that you're helping the internet or helping the truth or anything like that? You're literally tying the same noose around your neck that you're tying around everyone else's. It's like the people that literally helped instate the Soviet Union. So many of these people, once it's too late, realize what they've done, that they've been a part of, literally creating their own hell that they all get to live through now. And these people need to snap out of it. If there's whistleblowers out there, you need to do something. Anybody that hears this, you want to take this up on the internet, rebroadcast anything, do it. Rebroadcast anything you got out right now. Whatever. You got my permission on that one 100%, as long as you got name of us and everything like that, and don't start trying to put this out as your own thing or whatever. You just put that out. I don't care. You can repost this anywhere. Give this to people to listen to. Just whatever. We need to start breaking out of this. People that are a part of this need to start realizing that they're being duped. That's why there's no one that is a greater ally to our cause here than disaffected veterans or disenfranchised veterans that have seen firsthand, that have been a part of firsthand of all of this evil, of all of this immorality, of all of this government-sponsored murder, in the same way that so many of these cops that engaged in the drug war for so long, once they retire and their pensions aren't at risk there anymore or anything like that, they can come out and start speaking against the drug war and everything. And they can start acknowledging it. And the fact of the matter is, until those people start standing up, don't be surprised when there's a really negative view of cops or of soldiers or whatever in the immediate American mindset. Because the fact of the matter is, there needs to be more people speaking out. And I have nothing against you individually there or whatever, but I do have something against your actions. Because while you might be a great human being, if you're told by whatever your superiors there that Too Real News is evil or whatever, we're working for, I don't know, throwing somebody crazy, like Albanian extremists or some ridiculousness there.
We're connected to NLA, the National Liberty Alliance, so we're all terrorists because we want justice and constitutional rights.
Dystopian of literally of being like, what, you think Thomas Jefferson quotes or something like that's good? Oh, dude, I don't know. That sounds pretty evil. That sounds pretty extreme. You think limited government sounds good? You like Ron Paul? Oh, I don't know. Come on, man. You believe that there are actually people out there that buy this crap and that listen to it and start quaking in their boots when they hear this. But the fact of the matter is, many of these people in this Tea Party movement and everything like that, or the more Republican angles of that, play right in to the contrived BS of through the media and everything, and the Fox Newses and all this, of the contrived I don't want to be like anti-poor people or anti-black, but you definitely kind of get that sentiment, not from everybody, but it's something that's there. And the media, of course, jumps on that with the Fox media and all that to portray that in its own thing. And the evil, anti-black conservatives there or whatever, anti-protesters or anti-war protesters and stuff like that, because how dare you do anything like that? And vice versa. You've got the people on the other side there with the protesters right now in the case of Baltimore. I guarantee you've got guys from the NOI or the 5%ers with the Nation of Gods and Earth and stuff like that going out there, rabble-rousing people up and being like, it's just because you're black. And they're just doing this like that. They would never kill a white person or an Asian or a Hispanic person. It's just because you're black and we're actually the real children of Israel and we're really gods and stuff like that. And everyone else has the mark of Cain. Literally taking Mormon theology and inverting it as though somehow the opposite of a lie, in that case, if you just switch that, is the truth.
Yeah, and Baltimore's a breeding ground for just that because they are poor and there's we're all poor.
Yeah, poverty has built this racism, bigotry, all this type of stuff. Literally,
exactly.
Realize how many people that are white, how many people that are Hispanic, how many people that are Asian, how many women, kids, old people, whatever, that have been killed by cops, that have been beaten by cops, that have had drugs planted on them by cops, that have women that have been stopped for whatever traffic violations or something, and then been sexually assaulted by a police officer. It goes on and on and on. And so, regardless, they want to try and put everyone into these little boxes. They create their own extremists after a while because of the fact that it becomes self-perpetuating. They push, and they did push originally through COINTELPRO and all, the radicalization of stuff with the Nation of Islam and everything, promoting the new Black Panther Party, which is rampant with feds.
Yep.
And it's
even the old Black Panther Party. I mean, they've done all this. The Rap Society, everything. They've engineered a just basically what people think is a thug.
Poison also black culture itself there, because so much of this was not necessarily even based on that. They want to try and control it and contrive it. The same way of a lot of the empowering Hispanic culture there and everything like that, they've completely raped with the La Raza movement and all this stuff, which takes its own forms of bigotry and its own forms of logical fallacies that go along with it to try and radicalize people and turn them into their own extremist group that they can use with stuff like Jade Helm to justify occupying Southern California there and everything like that, of being like, oh, but the La Raza people are going to take it, so we got to stop them. In the same way that they push, the FBI does, the white extremist groups. They want to push the so-called patriot groups or whatever, and not all of them in any case, and there's always grassroots stuff and all of this that is totally fine. But whenever you see somebody pushing hardcore violence or something like that, then boom, you got it. That's a Fed right there. Either he is a Fed or he is funded by Feds. Period, point blank, end of paragraph, end of story, close the book, done.
Just like Al Sharpton, he's definitely paid off. I mean, that's the kind of thing. I mean, everybody's pushing for this, and Morgan Freeman, he came out and he was talking about it. Michael Moore, even, and these guys they're all part of the system. They're all part of the people that are ultimately out to get us. And it's like Michael Moore comes out and says, "Hey, let's disarm every cop. This is my demand. Is I want every cop to be disarmed." It was like 3 a.m. By 5, he had already written another one, and he's like, and then release all the black. And he didn't. Infowars actually misquoted it.
All people.
Right, yeah, they misquoted that. He said just I think the drug-based ones, just to try to get, and Infowars actually quoted as saying everybody.
Just black
Yeah,
people.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
How racist is that? Or not even racist, as we know that race isn't a thing that actually exists. But how bigoted is that?
Can you imagine if that went the opposite way? And
Yeah,
we said, we're going to release all the white guys who got busted on drug charges, but not the blacks, just the whites. There'd be a revolution in this country tomorrow.
Well, that'd be the exact same thing there, Rick. It would be like any of this, because of course all these people, you middle class people and all this type of stuff. Even that itself, classism of how they create and contrive the stuff of literally the ultra rich trying to turn the ultra poor against the middle class and the nouveau riche. Period. It's
well, at least they're not locking us below deck as the ship is sinking.
People want to look at us like lower class there or whatever, people like at the poorest end of the spectrum, as they're like dirty or whatever, and they're push that same propaganda. The nouveau riche are supposed to look at down on the people below them and look up to the people above them of the super rich or whatever and want to be like that. But the fact of the matter is, they're literally sawing rungs off of the ladder that you need to climb to be successful in this world. because they want a monopoly. They don't want other people to be successful because they realize competition and honesty is the greatest form of success, and over time would literally destroy all of their stagnated monopolies that they've created because they cannot maintain them with their crappy business practices. They
can't have a free thinking
to have the law on their side. If they can't use government through buying them out to legislate their monopoly, they will lose it. Period. That's what's happening with McDonald's right now. That's what's happening with the Walmarts of the world right now. That's what's happening with the Monsantos of the world. All this stuff. It's falling. CNN's ratings, MSNBC's ratings, Fox News's ratings is all in the toilet.
Yep. Well, the Bible does say at the end times all will be revealed. I mean, whether we are, whether we aren't. I mean, there's definitely an unveiling that's happening right now. When the conspiracy theorist guys are the heroes, then times have changed.
Well, and think about it, though, Jason, too, there, of the fact of it makes you look back through everything of history of people that are considered, if you're not with the party line there or whatever the BS that they want to feed you, you're an extremist, you're a terrorist, and that's worked throughout all of
with us, or you're the terrorists.
Yeah, well, quite literally, George W. Bush. Is there anything more polarizing than that, more radicalizing than that? Of literally, you are, quote, with America, which itself is one of the most ambiguous terms ever, which literally means you're either with George W. Bush because this lunatic views himself as America and is like, oh, I get to speak for America. You're either with him or you're with the terrorists. Another ambiguous term that just, what is that supposed to mean? Who does that classify you with? So if you're not for going and bombing a nation that had nothing to do with 9/11, then what? You're a terrorist? If you don't support military interventionism, or you're a conscientious objector, or let's say somebody out there that's a pacifist that doesn't want to join up with the military or whatever on moral grounds, just has their reason of not wanting to do this, you're a terrorist? If you're Democrat at that point that doesn't support George W. Bush or what he's doing, even if you would support it if it was a Democrat doing it, you're still under that classified as a terrorist. Because you're not with him. It's literally all these guys. It's a cult of personality. It's about me, of just trying to get as much energy into this as possible for themselves, as much just wrapped up in their own egos when they are truly some of the smallest, most just minutia type people to ever exist. Literally, they're nobodies. If it wasn't for the evil they've done, they would have no life to speak of, period.
If they didn't control the funds of the world, they would be nobodies. They would be absolutely nobodies.
Because most of them lack, that's a thing that's pretty well known, is that most sociopaths can't create stuff. They can only take things from other people. They have no innovations. They have no true looking out and actually being a trailblazer of actually wanting to invent something, of actually wanting to create, to build something new. Instead, they want to take something that's already been made and then try and remake it, which is the pretty much exactly what you want to call the devil there of going on right now with our genetic code of people trying to remake humanity in their own image, to try and remake it in what they feel is their own image, or what they feel is a more perfect version of humanity. And all this is going to do is destroy themselves, and it's going to destroy a lot of us in the process.
Culture, destroy our world.
Because that's what so much of this is so dangerous. And I'm not one of those people that's the super environmentalist that I believe all people are evil and the environment doesn't need us and everything. I believe people are essentially shepherds of the earth, because so much of this stuff, literally even trees and everything like that, of selective foresting, selective harvesting and all this type of stuff, clearing out dead branches, of tilling the earth, of actually creating more life there, more abundance upon the earth, is a beautiful thing that humanity is capable of. And yet,
so you're not good with CERN, then? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'm not pro that, and that's why before we got cut off there by the break, or right at the time we were getting cut off there by the break, I was going to say everybody's got their own biases to all this stuff, but we don't have their biases. We have a pro-life all over. Doesn't matter who you are, bias. We have an anti-death bias. That's not a good thing. I mean, dying or whatever is a completely natural part of life and everything, but murdering people, killing people and all that, it's not cool. We have a very anti-drug war sort of a stance. We have a very anti-division sort of a stance. We have a very strong unity sort of a stance. We have a very strong, not humanist, but empowering to humans sort of a stance, empowering to animals, empowering to nature, because literally all of it is important. All of it is integral to the other, and to act as though any of it we can just do without something there, it's never going to be there.
Nope. Nope. We got to take care of what we have, or we're about to lose it.
Agreed. And as we wind down our broadcast here, we got like 12 minutes left, something like that. Just being,
you guys can go
straight
over if you want.
Brother, we're probably gonna go over a little bit, but we're not gonna try and
no problem.
Jack up your time frame here or anything like that. So much of this has just been. We could go on, and I know some people, I like doing the news a lot, too, like that, of just covering as much news as possible. But there are times that I like doing like what we're doing right now, of just really breaking it down, because there's so much spin in everything that I was so glad that we started doing the two real news takes at the end of every last article there that we covered, because you know firsthand, Jason, of how much, even as you're reading it, you're just like, wow, Spin Central here, huh? Spin City, You're like, wow.
Yeah, and that's the thing is some news articles are good, but they're not totally factual, and where we
or
put
they
this
leave
in
out,
the end.
they omit like a fact, one fact that literally changes the entire perspective, or begs to answer one question. Like in the case of some of this stuff of covering things going on in Yemen right now, or things of U.S. interventionism around the world. I had a thing that I covered on U.S. AFRICOM the other day when they were talking about how, and it's our job to make sure Africa is safe and everything like that and all this. And at no point in the article does anyone question the fact of what this guy just said. Our job, really? Our job to keep Africa safe. Last time I checked, the best way we could keep Africa safe is keeping the United States, be it their military and our intelligence agencies, out of their countries, out of their continent, out
Stop
of
releasing
Europe,
plagues to them and killing them.
Well, I mean, Jason, think about it. We've got EUCOM, European Command in the United, obviously in Europe. We have AFRICOM, we have SouthCom, we have PacificCom, we have CENTCOM, we have all sorts of stuff. Of literally, the United States has, over 1,000 military bases around the entire world. Period.
That's why we're hated.
Ridiculous. Yeah, exactly. People, it's our freedoms. It's got nothing.
That's
to
conquered
do with
areas.
freedom.
Yep, those are areas that have been conquered. I mean, they wouldn't. If you ask anyone that lives there, are you okay with this military base there? Like, no, go home. This.
If they didn't have guys with guns there patrolling it right now, we'd tear the thing down or take it.
Oh yeah. And to get it, I mean, the atrocities we committed to get to that point. I mean, we're at the wrong place in time. We're out busy destroying everyone else's life when we should really be, putting that money. Imagine America that didn't have the agendas that it has. Imagine a God-loving country that people really truly cared. We didn't have crazy cartoonist shows. We did, we could go out and it wasn't, you look at a black guy and you think, he's going to rob me, and that's the mentality these guys have put across everybody.
Oh yeah, everything.
And it's just we've labeled everybody, we've classified everybody, we put everybody where we think they should be, and then we left them there, and then at some point someone's going to come along and clean us up. It's ridiculous.
Indeed, and you notice that's why how sick it is that they refer to us as everything of citizens, of taxpayers, of all this dehumanizing stuff, rather than just human beings. Because all of it is about that, of viewing us as more like resources and all that. Because even these people themselves, the politicians and everything that have to be a part of this, have to be engaged in their own forms of self-deception in order to even be able to go to sleep at night. And even in order to even be able to wake up and be able to walk around. And I understand most of them, if not all of them, are straight up sociopaths. So for the most part, they feel no empathy, they feel no guilt for anything that they've done. But anyone that has even the slightest semblance of a conscience, those are the people that are truly, in my opinion, really evil out there, because they ignore it again and again and again. And it doesn't matter if they have to turn to alcohol or drug addiction or sex addiction or whatever it is that they can try and use to cover it up. The fact of the matter is, if you're that ugly inside, nothing's going to get you away from that. And you're going to keep running from it the rest of your life. And the only way that's going to go away is for you to address it. Because the fact of the matter is, I'm not the one judging you. Jason's not the one judging you. Rick's not the one judging you. The United States Supreme Court isn't the one judging you where it really matters. The United Nations isn't judging you. Ban Ki-moon or Barack Obama or Vladimir Putin aren't judging you. God is judging you when it matters, and that's why you need to care. Period.
Yeah, we could still stand tall, all of us. We can all make some change, and I'm not done. I haven't thrown in the towel yet. I still believe that the best can happen to the world. I pray to God that we have a revival, that truly He listens to the prayers of the devoted ones, and that He stops the oncoming What onslaught of it's just the fear. It's the total fear of them lining the streets of soldiers, and whether or not it's the end times and whether or not it's martial laws upon us. It's just, I'm tired of the fear. I'm like you, Seth. I'm tired of it. You want to bring it on? Let's do it.
Yeah. Well, I'm willing to fight for this until my heart stops, man. My soul is invested in this. Literally, I've poured everything I got into this operation here, and we make zero in terms of money, man. And how much money I've spent putting into this, and the same exact thing. How much money you spent putting into this of effort, of time, because time is money. It's literally, in fact, time is more valuable than money because it's literally the only thing you can't get back. And I'm willing to put this into for people and all this, and we're doing this because we love people, because we care about people, not because I want to get famous, not because I want to ride on the coattails of some other groups there or whatever that blaze the trail for me to be able to do what I'm doing. I want to do this because it's right. It wouldn't matter if we were in 400 BC Greece or Rome there or Judea. We'd be doing the same thing with whatever utensils we'd have ready for us at the time.
Yep. We're doing this because it was commanded of us. It was fish for men, and anyone that ever picks us up, we can open your eyes. We've done our job, and that's the best we can do.
Because we're still doing the same thing ourselves there. Don't look at me as you have telling you before there, Jason. Don't look at me as a prophet. Don't look at me as a teacher. Don't look at me as any of this stuff. I'm like you, literally. Just everything that I got right now, all this knowledge, all this stuff. It's other stuff. It's because I've read. It's because I've researched. It's because I've gone and I've lived. Literally, that's it. I'm not better than you. I'm not worse than you. Period. No. We're all dirty, man. I'm not some just total great guy that everybody wants to be around and all this stuff there. In fact, covering a lot of this stuff in many ways can occasionally make me bitter there, to the point I start kind of pushing people away, because it's hard to talk about, and I understand why a lot of people don't want to hear about this or whatever. Like I said, I wouldn't wish this on one of my worst enemies, man, of this lifestyle, because if you have any sort of heart, any sort of empathy, it literally eats you up inside looking at all this stuff. It's horrendous, and that's why I try and cover some more positive news every now and again, and also try and keep a positive perspective about this, because it's, I don't know.
Well, we got to have hope. We got to have hope. I mean, if we don't have hope and we're just reporting the doomsday, them coming and locking us up and it's over, I mean, that really
plays
sucks.
right into what they want.
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
then we're totally disempowered and we're weak and we're literally just waiting along for everything. And that's why I understand. I disagree with the people that say that the Illuminati stuff and all this isn't real. I think that is complete BS. But to a degree of saying that people let it be used to a degree and focus on only that to such a degree that it's disempowering, that it's very weakening to you as an individual, because what can I do against something so big, so evil, so whatever? What you need to remember is that David, with a sling, a little dude, the average Jewish person there at the time is supposed to be what, about 5'2", 5'3", could slay a giant. You can say that's a metaphor, whatever. Period. The fact is, you can do amazing things. Faith as small as mustard seed can move mountains. Literally. I am not joking. This is something that we can do. People through having faith, people through believing in not only God, but believing in themselves and in each other, of what we can do in the spirit there, of being able to actually work towards something. Just think of that. As much as we can act like and devalue all human achievements and everything like this, of saying, what are roads, what are buildings, what is medicine, what is culture, what is all this, when people still kill one another and still treat each other like garbage. While I do agree with that to a degree, we need to get over it, because seriously, we are capable of some amazing things if we put our hearts to it. The fact is, none of what we're talking about right now, even in forms of liberalism, even forms of libertarianism, forms of Christian doctrine and all this, we would not have the ability to speak on this, to be this educated, to be able to do this, if there weren't human beings that were willing to put their hearts, souls, and lives on the line for this. That were willing to be able to build something in which we can even communicate here across electrical wiring and stuff like that, impulses and whatnot, over thousands of miles. Period. Because the difference between you and I, Jason, is what, a few hundred miles there, but the distance between us and Rick is over 1,000 miles, is more like 2,000 miles. And the distance between us and Rick and whoever else listening around the world, it doesn't matter if it's Jerry down there in in Australia. It doesn't matter if we're going to affiliates in Europe there. It doesn't matter if we're talking about Scott in Ukraine or Anthony in Turkey or anything like that, or Pete in Chicago. We're literally getting people from all over the world that are connected through this. And that is amazing. That is empowering. That is strength. It's literally everything they've done right now to try and keep us weak, try and keep us looking at each other. Even the technology itself of trying to overwhelm us with all this information and all these gadgets and all these distractions to keep us from looking at one another and realizing that what we've got is precious, that we are so blessed to even be alive in this time that we are right now. Period. Indeed. To even be aware just how big of a gift that is.
It is. It is. Yeah, we could be sleeping soundly. We could be bobbing our heads, watching some TV, watching the Super Bowl, watching all these retarded shows on TV that, are just
more
useless.
Of my yellow number 5 and
yeah, baby, yellow 5s.
Drink my Coca-Cola, or especially in that case, I'll be my diet Coca-Cola.
Or do Pepsi. I want the human fetuses in mine.
Yes. Oh, no, but Jason, they don't have human fetus cells in there. Those
That's
human
right,
fetus
that's right.
kidney cells were just used in the testing process to make the flavorings.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a big
stick with
difference.
my
I'm sorry.
Water. Fluoride free water.
Oh, people. It's like the fluoride in the water thing, like you just said there. It's just so much. If I was asleep, I guess actually I do kind of get the saying of what people have of ignorance is bliss there, but to a degree that itself is also a lie, because it's not. While it's a temporary bliss of an immediate, like what can you say? A self-aggrandizing, a self-abasing also policy there, where literally it's just nothing else matters, man. It's all about me 24/7. And then you start looking outside yourself and at the world around you and everything, and you realize that there's something not only that I need to do about this, which is the responsibility that everyone wants to hide from, but then also there's something I can do, which is the empowerment that nobody has until they're actually awakened, until they actually have the moral culpability or the responsibility there.
Yep.
Period.
The more people that sit there and harass the Republicans and Democrats, even, I know it doesn't do a dang bit of good, but I mean, the more that they know that we're waking up, and the more that we're sitting there banging on their doors, telling them to get to DC and make some changes, stop the impending evil. That's where to start. I mean, if you don't think you can do anything out there, you can. You can pick up the phone, even if you don't vote. Who cares? Pick it up and just start calling them and let them know you're not good. Call them the next day. Let them know. Make them do something. Hold these guys accountable. If not, we're just
it's everything, Jason. You can buy stuff as far as how you shop, who you shop with, what companies, everything from the car you buy to the food you buy to the freaking banks you go to a bank with, or whether or not you use a bank, whether or not you invest in certain metal companies or whatever, to whether or not you invest with certain firearms companies or whatnot there. To whether or not you support groups like Boeing, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, BAE. If you support people like that, you're supporting the man, the system. If you want to support organic gardening co-ops and stuff like that, if you want to support independent internet service providers, if you want to support independent tech and security companies, if you want to support anything, I don't care if it's people that provide survivalist type supplies, or like a little grocery store or something like that, that's like a mom and pop shop or a hobby shop or something like that. Just support people that aren't part of these big mega corporations. Support people that are actually in your community. Support each other, because that's where it's got to happen at first on the change there. It literally is.
Guys, though, can we really escape? I mean...
Oh, no, I don't think we're ever
if you pay your electric bill or you're paying any taxes, you're funding abortion and you're funding our government.
Well, if you're buying
all
gas
do,
for your car there, you're paying
right,
for the
you're paying that tax. Yep.
East.
Right. So, I mean, where can we go? If you're using a telephone and you got a cell phone account or an internet, how about the internet? Comcast, AT&T. How can you not support a New World Order company? You've seen all the logos that are apart. I mean, you have to go. You'd have to go live like Grizzly Adams on a mountain, and they won't let you do that anymore because it's all preserved now.
Yeah, well,
the state is so.
Knows what I'm talking about here with that, of the internet service providers and of computer companies and stuff like that. There aren't as many as you'd hope, but there are more now than in some cases there used to be. Because there was a time there right after some of the mega mergers where there was no competition for anything. where they literally
It's
created
hard.
their ultimate.
Yeah, I know what you're
de facto
saying.
Monopoly.
You got to
Yeah,
support
like the
good,
2 or 3
good
company
businesses.
monopolies. Yeah,
But
if
what
just
I'm
anything,
saying
'cause
is,
even if
all
it's
in
dirt-
all, so long as the world is run by these people that give us limited choices, like McDonald's, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Burger King, or Wendy's, or Walmart, Target, or Kmart, I mean, or Comcast or AT&T,
Change is going to begin little bits at a time. I mean,
Yeah,
you got,
right.
people
Well,
have
it's
to
literally
step
it's
up.
stepping back from their contrived choices. That's why it's like the same thing. They give you Pepsi or Coke. They give you Republican or Democrat. They give you either whatever. I'm sure it's something goofy like this, Jay-Z or Lil Wayne or some goofiness or something, just ridiculousness.
Right,
Justin
and the richest
Bieber
elite
or,
and the
so-
richest
so-and-so, they'll
elite
give you
own
the-
it all. The richest
well, they'll give you
elite
the
own it
Pittsburgh
all. So
Steelers
either way,
versus
they're getting your money.
Whatever, Cleveland Browns or something like that, or whatever was the last one there, the Seahawks versus the Patriots. They'll give you stuff like that. They'll give you a Manchester United versus the Fly Emirates there or whatever, or United Arab Emirates. And just, come on, man. None of this is, it's all contrived. So much of it is contrived to just keep you of the us versus them mentality, this team mentality and all this, to keep you thinking small. And I mean, we got to start wrapping it up here as we're going there. But Jason, you got anything to add here?
Yeah, just on Rick's side, it's I see that perspective. I see where it's like, everything we do, from satellite TV down to gas we buy to all of it, we are supporting the man. But, I think that if there is any hope for the world, if there is any hope at all, it's going to come from probably somebody who's sleeping right now, somebody who truly can rise up and be the warrior, somebody who could really make the change. There's a lot of sleeping people in very high positions that if they were just truly awakened, they could make some changes. And that's who I see as the hope of everything. And yeah, I know it sucks buying all this stuff. Everything we do goes to the man, but breaking free from that is just one little step at a time. And that's why Seth and I are here.
Indeed, and nobody quite frees you from the chains of fear there like Jesus. So, amen, brother. Thank you for joining us and everything like that. Anybody listening to the Two Real News here, thank you, Rick, for a great job with productions and everything. We got back from that little hiccup we had there for a moment and kept it on going, man. It was a great job. A lot of news we covered today. Pretty interesting stuff. Be sure to stay tuned for any of our small news segments that we'll have that'll be pre-recorded, put up right up to the website and everything, and they do play them. I believe they're on Shake and Wake and everything like that, so people have gotten to hear a few of those, which are just awesome, I think, as far as having as much information condensed into a small period of time as possible.
And Shake and Wake Radio is going to be going through a lot of changes as far as archives and all types of stuff that we're going to be working with Jason to cloud a lot of stuff and put stuff on our site as well. So we'll have two places that you'll be able to get the most recent shows. And thank you so much for Jason for helping me.
Yeah, brother, you are a champion. Seriously, man. I know you.
You guys are too good.
Humble,
man.
don't
Too
want
good.
praise and everything like that, but you've been absolutely instrumental in helping get stuff
all
going here
glory
and
goes
everything.
to God that brought everybody to us.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. He dropped the bus off here, and I'm just doing what my creator has told me, and so he said you guys were next, so here we are.
Another great show.
Keep
Thank
it
you
positive.
so much,
keep
guys.
it going into the wonderful day there that everybody's had. A wonderful evening for our affiliates there on the East Coast and all that, going all the way into Europe and beyond there. It's amazing, everybody all over the world. Keep God first and all this, but just look inside. You got to work on a lot of stuff within yourself and with your own relationships with people before you start trying to go out and change the world. But it's always important to remember that you can change the world, because you can change yourself. You can change your relationships with others. You can change how you react to things, and that's true control.
Indeed.
Amen. Have a great day. Thank you for joining Two Real News on this wonderful Wednesday, May. Whew, May. My goodness. It's already May 6th of 2015. God bless and good night.